Today we have a very entertaining episode between Mary and Martha, and we see from their sister dynamics a common relationship that many people can relate with, sibling struggle. And while you see that Martha is not too pleased with her sister Mary, it also shows us a lot about their relationship to Jesus. Both of them, so comfortable with him, he is more than just a guest. I mean, imagine telling your guest to tell your other sibling to help around the house, right? You wouldn't tell that to a guest. You would say that to someone who's so close to you that they're like a family friend. Because of that, we can trust that they are truly very close with Jesus. But what's also important to note is just Martha's attitude, right? And while we recognize Martha's attitude, we can say, well, she should have been better. But at the same time, I think this is an attitude everyone can relate with, right? I mean, because what she's doing here is not unjustified. Rather, it makes sense. When you put yourself in Martha's shoes, if I was in Martha's shoes and my sibling, which I expected to help around, was not and was staring off into space, I'd be pretty upset. I mean, doesn't that happen when, let's say, for example, parents, you're like trying to tell your kids to turn off the TV or put away the games and to clean up their mess, and they don't listen to you the first time? Ooh, you feel it, don't you? And you're like, my patience is shrinking. But the beauty is, we see here a deeper reality, a supernatural reality that points to the spiritual life of both Martha and Mary. And so we see here that Martha, she's constantly working, right? She's about being busy. Mary, on the other hand, is very still and silent. So Jesus says that Mary has the better half, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Martha's half isn't good. No, it's very good, and it's needed. But you actually need both, right? When it's time to work, you got to work. When it's time to rest and pray, you got to rest and pray. But what both Martha and Mary are doing for Jesus are absolutely good. Notice that Martha talks to Jesus. She has a conversation with Jesus. That's a very natural form of prayer that we call mental prayer, right? And it's something that everyone needs to practice, to have regular conversation with Jesus. So much so that your prayer isn't this static, ritualized formula. No, it's coming from the heart. Jesus, this is what I'm struggling with right now. I need your help. Do something, right? I love you, Jesus. But Mary, on the other hand, takes the prayer a step further. And we call this contemplative prayer. A prayer in which she is so united to Jesus that their hearts become one. That she's so entranced in his presence that she needs nothing else. That she just wants to remain there and to bask in his rays, in his grace, right? And Jesus, seeing this, and Mary chooses not to push her. He's like, no. What she's experiencing right now, this is a very special moment. Let her be. Let her be. And that's something that we should all seek, this contemplative prayer. Some might think, well, contemplative prayer, that's for like priests and nuns who are super holy and do holy things, right? That spend all day in the church on their knees praying. That's not me. I'm a layman. I can't do that. No, absolutely not. Everyone can do this. By virtue of being baptized, by being a child of God, you most definitely can do this. and you should. But you need to be intentional in how you spend that time with God, right? And so what does that mean? How do we spend that time with God? So he's here clearly in the tabernacle, right? And so the idea is to come to him and to just spend time. Well, some might say, well, I don't know. I have so many things I have to do. I don't have the time to just be with him. If that's where your heart's at, you're in the same position as Martha. If you're too busy for God, you have Martha's heart. And so how do you get to Mary's heart? The more time you spend in front of Jesus, at some point, your heart, it wakes up to the reality. Because in the end, you realize that all the things that you were busy with didn't really matter. I mean, yes, there are very important things that we have to take care of, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I mean, even if, to just be completely blunt, let's say I was to die tomorrow. Everything that I was responsible for, it doesn't really matter. What ultimately matters is how did I prepare my heart to die? Because nobody knows when they're going to die. Was I ready? Right? And the only way to truly be ready is if we have a sincere relationship with God. And so wasting time with him is not wasting time. It's rather the greatest and the most important thing that we can do in our lives. So if we feel that we're too busy, then we have to reassess our hearts. So the beauty is that we see through this example that Jesus is teaching Martha is like, no, you too need to have a contemplative heart. What happens is that the more time you spend before Jesus in the tabernacle, you learn to have that contemplative heart wherever you go. And that's amazing. That where we are in the middle of the world, that we can see God in every waking moment. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal. To see a situation, and rather than saying, okay, I just need to handle it this way, is to rather look at it and say, Lord, what would you do here? Lord, what is it that I should do that is according to your will, right? And the moment that you're able to stop yourself and to assess the situation the way you think God wills, you're doing it, right? Now you're trying to share in his heart. You're doing it. And if you're at that place, you're in a very good place. Right? But it's hard to get there. And that's why I'm saying spending that time with Jesus at his foot here at the tabernacle makes all the difference. In the first reading, we get an example of what happens when your heart is conformed to God. You have Abraham, and there in Mamre, he is witnessing 3 guests coming from a distance. And he realizes that these guests are of the Lord. And so what does he do? He doesn't look at Sarah and says, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Hurry up and start moving. What are you doing? And getting upset. He doesn't go to the 3 guests and says, now tell Sarah what to do. No, he has the contemplative heart. So he goes to Sarah. And whatever he says to her, she gets up right away. And they're on the same page. And he's like, you know what? And he's not counting the cost, right? He's not getting nitpicky. He's not nickel and diming his guests. He's saying, find the best fatted calf and prepare it. I'm going to wash their feet. Let's do this. Let's give them the best experience we can. Let us serve them as best we can because this is God. They both were in it with a contemplative heart. They knew because they spent all that time with God. Mamre, if you don't know, is in the middle of the desert. It's like, who goes there? But Abraham spent a lot of time over there. And he was constantly thinking about God, about Yahweh, looking out into the distance. In that silence, constantly united to God's heart, he was contemplating God. So it makes perfect sense that when the moment came, he knew exactly how to respond with confidence. Because ultimately, that's the difference. When you spend a lot of time in front of the Blessed Sacrament through adoration or just coming here to visit the tabernacle, through that time spent with Jesus, your heart becomes so united to his that when you're in any given situation and you have to make a decision, there becomes this confidence. Because you know that what you're trying to do, you believe this is God's will. So you don't second guess yourself. The world can tell you otherwise. The world can say you are crazy. And you can say, sure, but I'm crazy in love with God. So you can attack me all you want, but you can't stop me. And that's where we all need to be, to have that confidence because we are truly united to God's most sacred heart. Every one of us can get there. You're all baptized. You can get there. If you're not baptized, get baptized. But you have the stuff, you have the grace, because that's what it means to be God's child. So let's contemplate Christ and recognize where in our lives we feel that we are too busy, such that in any given moment, with whatever struggles, that you can have the capacity to see what God wills in the given moment. And anytime you capture yourself being unable to do so, make sure to waste time with Christ.